What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Thank
Welcome,
you for all
everyone.
the birthday wishes. We got Kenny and Jared here. Aaron's working hard, or something like that, at least. So, anyway, we jump on here, have a little fun, do a birthday Q&A. I don't know why we decided to do that, but here we are. So it's your chance to ask some questions. I finished skiing for the day, so
We got 38 people. That's pretty good.
Mr. Dave, how's it going? Go for it, Kenny. What'd you say?
We got 38 people, 41 people now.
Yeah, busy already. Jump in there with your questions. Enough about me. I want to pin this one on the screen. So, hey, Eli, I'm currently doing 3 to 5 shoots per week. How do I increase that to 2 to 3 per day? Yeah, really good question. A couple things. So what we see happen a lot, if you're doing 2 to 3 shoots a day or a week pretty consistently, or 3 to 5 shoots a week pretty consistently, what happens to a lot of people is they start getting busier and they stop doing client acquisition. And so the biggest thing I can say is to really hit the Instagram method hard until you're at that 2 to 3 shoots a day. My guess is, so like, let me just do some quick math. So if you're doing, let's say 4 shoots per week times $250 average order value, are you doing somewhere around like $4,000 a month, or is it a little less? Maybe a little less because it's more inconsistent. But put in the chat how much approximately you're doing. And then 2 to 3 per day. So let's say you're doing 2.5 per day on average times a $250 average order value. That's $625 per day times 22 business days, $13,750. So you're basically going from you've gotten your feet wet, you're getting some shoots, you need to go to fully booked or almost fully booked. Fully booked is going to be between 15 and 20K, depending on your market. So it's all going to be about client acquisition. Any thoughts on that, Kenny, specifically that you want to jump into?
Just focus about you, not really your business. Like, what I mean by you is just like you're the brand right now. Like, you're still at a good point that it's just you, which is a great advantage. So just focus on like the customer service, making sure that your Instagram looks up to like what we recommend, which is, your profile photo should be a photo of you. There should be a mixture of your portfolio services that you offer and photos of you as well. Just focus like on your brand and customer service. But like I said, client acquisition, hardcore. Like if you want to continue getting more shoots every day, like you just need more clients.
Yeah, it gets hard around the $4,000. So you said around 3,500. So like you're getting there. It's just you get busier at that point. My guess is you maybe still have a job that you're working besides this, and so you're starting to do shoots. And like generally, what happens, and one of the biggest things we try to help coaching clients not do, is they're really like everybody's really good at going out and finding clients when they first start, right? Because you have to. You're not doing anything else. But then when shoots start coming, you start putting off the client acquisition and focusing on the shoots, which I understand that, but you just want to focus on the shoots and then use that extra time on client acquisition because that's what grows your business. And when you're doing like, let's call it $3,500, $4,000 a month, you're not going to get enough referrals to make the growth fast enough. So like what I mean by that is right now, I don't know your actual name. I'm not saying mob and log every single time, but anyway, what's going to happen to you right now is you'll grow, but it's going to be like 3,500, 3,700 every month, 3,800, 4,100. It's going to be really slow growth. And so this time next year, you might be doing $4,000 or $6,000 or $5,000, but it's like not the fast growth that a lot of people want to see. And the difference is just adding in and continuing to be consistent with the Instagram method. I'm also asking for referrals. A coaching client of ours did something I saw on my story actually earlier today. We recommend doing this, which is being vulnerable about your position, where you're at. So like, I don't know your story, but just being like, Carson, okay, cool. Thanks, Carson. I would be like, hey, like on my Instagram story, my name's Carson. Here's where I'm at. Like, I'd love to take this full time. You don't need to introduce yourself again. Scratch that part. But like, post something in your story about how excited you are to be in this business and how you just need a few more shoots consistently to be able to go full time. That's going to open up a ton of availability. So like, let people get invested in you a little bit and kind of like the journey you're on. And that's the biggest thing. But full acquisition mode until you're at like 10 grand. Like once you get to 10 grand, you can let off a little bit. Most people do because they're busier. But when you're shooting, 10 grand a month, you have somewhere probably in the range of like 80 clients, maybe 60, maybe 100, depends on your market. But when you have that many people referring you, that's a lot of people that are out there selling for you. But when you're at 3K a month, you maybe have like 15 clients, maybe 20 clients. Like it's the referral engine. It isn't really started yet. So getting there as fast as possible using the Instagram method is what I would recommend. Okay, let's see. Hello, I just started my real estate photography journey about a year ago and looking to update my website. What website did you use to make your website? So, I would say you shouldn't really worry about it yet. Before we answer this, put in the chat how much revenue you're averaging per month, and then we'll give you some specific advice on that. You guys agree? You want to come back to it then?
Let's do it. That's a Jared question too.
Yeah, let's see. Jared, do you see any you like on here that you want to answer?
Somebody asked about the switch from Spiro to H. No. Yeah. Well, Spiro to HT Photo, but we actually switched from HT Photo to Spiro.
That's what they said. Main reason for the switch to Spiro from HD Photo Hub.
Oh, I read it wrong. It's your glasses. I can't read anymore. It's better for businesses our size, honestly. There's a few things that HD Photo released a lot of new stuff right after we left, which whatever. Mainly a lot of organizational stuff that's better for bigger businesses like ours. Task Manager, I can automate a lot of stuff that I was having to do outside of HD Photo Hub, like on Monday, like building our board so I could see where our editing and QC team was at during the day, is all built in and automated based on what's ordered. The on-site tracker is great for seeing where my photographers are at for the day. It gives me a little heads up view of like what percentage we're done shooting for the day, what percentage is delivered for the day. I think the Dropbox integration is made a little bit better.
Even for a small business, though, the pricing is good. There's a lot of functionality across the board. Yeah,
it goes straight to bigger businesses. Smaller businesses, yeah, the pricing is better. It has everything that's necessary that HD Photo Hub has.
It's cheaper.
And yeah, it's cheaper.
And I like the design better. It's cleaner user interface. It's more modern looking. Looks better for your clients. What's up, Eric? How's it going, sir? Thank you. The birthday wishes. Nice. Happy birthday to you. Almost. Let's see. Anyway,
the one right above that.
This one?
Yeah.
I'll read it. Who should I reach out to if I contacted every real estate agency in my area? How do I find actual agents to contact them personally? Should I contact them personally? Yeah, so you don't want to reach out to the agency or the brokerage. Real estate agents, at least in the United States, they're all contractors. So they're all 1099, meaning they have their own business. They get to pick, for the most part, who they use as a photographer. And so, yeah, absolutely contact them personally. Like our method that we use to get clients, we call it the Instagram method. It's just the process that we teach. And if you want to learn more about that process, the workshop linked in my bio covers it. And obviously, if you're more serious and you want to really like hit the ground running, we'd love to work with you in coaching. So I'll put that link up here as well. But generally, you want to go straight for the real estate agent. The brokerage is not something that you're going to be able to target successfully when you're first starting. Eventually, you'll be able to get potentially some brokerage deals and start closing some volume deals. But when you're first starting, it's not really going to work. Let's see. Is this the banner? Tag on
somebody asked about REO.
I don't like it as much.
No, REO's gross. If you're stuck on like what should I use for my new one, Spiro is REO but better and cheaper and not owned by Zillow.
Jared just says REO is gross.
REO's gross. I hate REO. It's so disjointed and just, I mean, it does what it needs to do. It does what you need, but you're going to end up switching. So I would just go ahead.
They are owned by Zillow, and Zillow also owns photography businesses, or Showing Plus, their brand owns photography business. So
which is also gross and easy to beat.
Let's see anyway, drop your question here. We have 59 people, so there should definitely be some more questions. Yeah, another reason to use Spiro is that's beside the point. Let's see. Let me find a question. Okay. I'm curious about what I should do if my market here in Australia tends to not post much on Instagram under the hashtag, and those that do don't post enough to build a relationship prior to sending the DM. Yeah, so there's a couple things you can do that kind of put an iteration on this. I would say the first thing anybody should do is quantify some of this stuff. So like tends not to post much. It's hard for me to tell you a firm answer because I don't know how much that is, right? We have seen with our students in Australia that isn't necessarily true, but maybe it is in your area. So I'm just going to assume that it is. I would just, go back and make sure. If you can't find a few hundred, that's probably too low. If you can find a few hundred, awesome, you're good. So if you've done that and it's not right, you can try on Facebook. You may find it in some markets, even in the US, that's sometimes true, but not usually. You can do the same method on Facebook ultimately.
Or you're ahead of the curve. I mean, the agents haven't caught on that social media is going to be the next step for them, and that's a great place to be. I like being ahead of the curve. You can start selling that, start teaching them that social media marketing is the way to go. Something our coaching students have started doing is find these influencer profiles that post live listings and then just go through and start following those agents. Find an agent, find a brokerage, go and see who they follow, and then start following those agents. I mean, there's always little leads you can use to find.
And if you'll drop where you are in Australia, like what city or like region, I will do it live. I'll find you some and just kind of see if that's working out. Because like if it is true, awesome. But if it's not true, I want to show you that so you can do it. The third thing I was going to say too that we have our coaching clients do, depending on the person. So this is when you have to like have some self-awareness. If you're really awkward on the phone and cold calling scares you, don't do this. But if it doesn't, cold calling based upon listings are good. Like here in the States, we can use Zillow. There's, equivalent real estate listing sites in Australia. Call and just introduce yourself. Oh, hey, David.
I love
First of all, what's that, Kenny?
I love this question.
I'll read it for everybody just listening audio. Do you ever follow up with clients that went to another company? I recently had a customer who raved about, I actually auto-corrected that to win in my head. I recently had another customer who raved about me. She even got another client for my photos. He had me shoot the exterior of the house, and I was supposed to come back and photograph the interior, then noticed the house on the market with someone else's photos. Left me a great review on Google, but also had 2 listings using someone else. Yeah, David, so really good question. There's a couple things that happen that I would, yes, always reach out and see, but don't go into it thinking they left, because I've done that a couple times early on at Norman & Young. Anytime a client would leave us, or I just thought they left us, I would call, and it was almost always like, oh yeah, that homeowner had a photographer they wanted to use, or like, oh, the homeowner, like whatever, there's some situation. But I always think it's good to like non-confrontationally follow up. So I would absolutely just be like, hey, I noticed your other listing went live with photos. Like I'm all about the feedback. I'm really trying to grow my business. Like if there's anything that you saw that made you want to use someone else, I'd love to know. Like not trying to get you back, no pressure here, just like wanting some feedback. And that's usually good. Most people really don't like giving bad feedback. And so they'll like really sugarcoat it. And so you kind of have to help them with that. So if they basically say, yeah, I just thought these photos were better, you may have to dig a little bit more. But if they, say, hey, it was just, this situation, the homeowner wanted to use this photographer they knew, then you don't dig. You don't want to dig from the start and then be wrong about it. Because that's what happened to me. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry that you left. They're like, oh, I didn't leave. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, definitely check in with them. Do you know who's Aaron David's coach? Kenny, do you know?
I've known.
Right.
Check real quick. Something to add there. It's just like you could go that approach, which I do really like. But you can also go the approach which is like you have no idea that she used somebody else, and you're just like saying like, "Hey, how's it going? Like, I love working with you. Just wanted to see how you were doing. Hope we can work together in the next listing or something like that." Just following up, just seeing how they are, and just pretending that you don't know anything.
Ooh, that's good.
You're just wanting to, you genuinely just want to work with her because you loved it. Something like that.
No, that's a good answer. And also too, just the general thing too, and I know you specifically know this, David, but just expanding for everybody, I think what a lot of photographers do wrong is they look at that side of their business and like the loss side. And so this is, again, not you at all, but we see people that will like go chase down photo rights and do other stuff like that. And that's kind of like along those same lines, where people are like looking back instead of looking forward. So if you did find they didn't use you, obviously get feedback, but then really just like don't spend too much time on it. Just keep moving forward. I guess I can answer this question since it's my birthday. I get to do what I want. I don't know yet. We'll see. Let's see. What are you doing? It's raining or overcast all week. Will Photoshop fix everything? Yeah, Jared, do you want to jump in on this one? What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
What do we do at Norman Young?
We go shoot the house unless they say otherwise. We sky replace. We can fix anything the rain messes up. The only thing that's difficult is wet driveways. Most agents who sell houses a lot don't care.
Yeah.
And if they get the photos back and they're like, oh, I really don't like that, we'll go reshoot it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It saves us. I would rather go do a 15-minute reshoot than reschedule an entire appointment.
And I think, it's actually interesting because something like we know, and this is why Jared said this, a lot of times the agent doesn't want to cancel the shoot. And so you'll see some photographers be like, oh no, we can't do that today. It's just not going to turn out right. And then the agent will take your advice, but they're not excited about it. And so I think it makes a difference. And it's actually good if you're like, hey, I can totally sky replace this for you. Here's what I'd recommend. Let's shoot it, give you something to get on the market with. And if you want me to come back and reshoot those exteriors next time it's sunny, I'm happy to do that. If you say that, like 90+% of the time, you'll never go back out and reshoot those exteriors. You just give them a little bit, and it gives you a chance to actually like make a positive impression with the agent where you're showing them like, hey, the agent feels like you have them covered, right? If you're like, oh no, here, I got you. Let me shoot this and I'll come back. Like, it's a good relationship building thing. And I used to do this when I was first starting. I was like, there's no way, I don't want to shoot bad photos. And then I realized that agents don't really care about that. Like they would much rather get the home on the market than wait. Ernesto, how's it going? Let's see. Do you recommend creating a personal video for each person you contact through DMs on Instagram, or is just a couple of general videos good enough? Mr. Kenny, hit this one, please.
Yeah, so it really depends on you and if you're good at camera. So we have, what we recommend is just doing 5 generic ones where you basically, like you state who you are, introduce yourself, how you found them, and then the offer that you want to give them, which is a free shoot. But if you're really good at talking, and talking on camera, and you're able to do that efficiently. We had, for example, Scott, Eli posted him on his story yesterday. That's all he did. He did personalized video DMs for each person that he reached out to, and it worked out for him really well. I think I have another one of my coaching students do that too, because he's doing super well with it. I would recommend start out with the generic ones, get that number of DMs sent super high, and then once you get to a good point at around like the 600, 700 mark, then you can start switching to personalized ones and seeing if that works.
Yeah. And like Scott, I mean, so first of all, this is super cool because he started his business and coaching earlier in the year. And now he's teaching tonight in our coaching call for that group, which is fun.
Yeah.
But so if you're good on camera, and I'll talk more about what being good on camera means in a second, but if you're good on camera, your response rate, your take rate on that offer is going to be higher. So with like Scott, his offer take rate was extremely high. And so he didn't actually have to send that many DMs. I think at the point where he was starting to get pretty busy, I mean, I think it was less than 300. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also at 10,500 feet, so my breath isn't working, but that's another story. Anyway, he was, he's one of those guys. He's just very calm, and like when you talk to him or you see him on camera, you trust him, and he just seems like an easy person to work with. And so he does good on camera in that sense. Now, if you're here and you're saying, yeah, every time I film myself, it's awful and I suck and I stumble over my words, welcome to everybody's first time on camera, though. So you don't want to be like instantly, because the first few times sucked, you're bad on camera. So my recommendation would be do 50 practice takes. Like literally go sit in your car. Nobody on earth is going to see these, so it doesn't matter. Hold the camera out. It's just like learning to talk. It's like people think because they can speak in person that it just translates to being good on camera. It doesn't. It's like learning again, right? And so get out there, do 50, delete them all, and then take five, your 51st through 55th will be better than the first 50, right? And there's your generic ones. But you also might find 50 tries in that they're pretty good. And maybe you just feel comfortable just saying, hey, Linda, when you start, instead of just doing the generic one. And so either way you take it, my advice would be definitely to like at least do 50 practice ones. Now, sometimes like when a client is in coaching, we don't always recommend 50. It just kind of depends on the person. We're looking for the path of least resistance. But without knowing anybody's specific circumstance here, definitely just go for it. Do the 50 and then see what it looks like from there. If you feel, and ask somebody that will give you honest feedback. Like, do you seem weird in this? The thing I would say is don't read a script. Like, it doesn't have to be a long message. Just introduce yourself. Like, you wouldn't read a script when you talk to somebody in person. That'd be really weird. And it's going to look weird on camera too. Like, honestly, reading a script or from a teleprompter is way harder than than just talking.
I tell my coaching students, it's like pretend that you're talking to a friend and you just actually want to help them out by giving them a free shoot. Like if
I always tell them pretend like you're trying to give somebody a free ice cream cone. You are. I mean, you are. You're giving them something that they genuinely want and genuinely need. Except that ice cream cone is going to come with a $5,000 commission.
Yeah, which is a little better than they can buy a lot of ice cream with that. So on this one, if they just like your message, just follow up in a couple weeks. I wouldn't read too much into it. Let's see. I'm going to skip some.
That means they're at least somewhat interested. If I don't care about your message, I'm not doing anything with it. I don't even want you to know I read it.
Yeah. They're busy. They just hit it. Can we ask about equipment? Yeah, go for it. I'll probably just recommend my kit link depending on your question, but yeah, ask a question. Let's see. I have a full-time job from 7 to 5. 10-hour day, right? That's long. No, it's not. Yeah, 10 hours. But I'd love to be a full-time real estate photographer. I'm in the area of West Palm Beach. How can I make the switch? I mean, you can do shoots after 5 and on the weekend, but I would start by trying to see if you can get some of those hours reduced, because that's a lot of work every day. And sometimes there's just a practicality standpoint. Sometimes you got to just figure out if you can drop a day or something like that. There's like, when you're first starting your business, there is a phase where it's just not better than your previous life, right? Like the first 2-3 months of your business are going to be just more work than your current job. And so it depends on what your like mindset is. And you got to be thinking more than 3 months out at least, and maybe even more. But the thing I'm coming back to is that like, there's a certain practicality when you're first starting your business. Like, let's say you're working 7 to 5 right now. I hope you're making decent money because you're working a lot of hours. Like, if you can't drop hours, I would really try to stuff up some money. So maybe you can start in 6 months, and take another job that, has a little bit more freedom. But ultimately, I think there is a lot of people, and I understand this, I'm not saying it's easy, right? But there are a lot of people who they feel like their circumstance is fixed. And so this is not, to you, Christopher, but this is just everybody that'd be like, oh, I work a 9 to 5. I can't do it. Well, it's like, it's up to you to figure out how to get out of that, right? So maybe you can't quit your 9 to 5, maybe you can get, 1 day off a week, or maybe you can quit your 9 to 5, cut back on some things, sell the car you don't need to make a change in your life. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. Cause like they'll say, oh yeah, I can't do that. And then it's like, if you look at their actual life, you see all of these expenses that if they really wanted to could pare that back. Right. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy or fun, but there's sometimes where you just have to take a step back so you can take a bunch of steps forward. And that's the thing to me that I think is like the saddest, when someone just feels like their circumstance is fixed. And then you look at them and they have 2 car payments, and then they're eating out and they're just like doing a lot of stuff that's not, and I understand you want that stuff. I'm not saying your life's easy and it's going to be like a walk in the park to get rid of that, but sometimes you do have to. And so, Christopher, again, not directed at you unless it hit, but for everybody else, like sometimes it does take just straight up doing something that's a big change that sucks for a little bit, because that's how you get to what you want in the future.
For sure.
Let's see. Yeah, we don't do any like sales or anything on coaching, Keith. I don't know if that's what you're asking about specifically. Coaching is all we offer now. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to replaunch.com/apply below. And I'd recommend everybody do that. Like if you've been watching me and you're serious about real estate photography, don't be too scared to talk to Rod, Carl, or Philippe on my team. And that's like the biggest thing I'd say. I'm not saying you have to jump in, start a business, do coaching. I'm saying you have nothing to lose by jumping on the phone with them. They're great people. I made them available for this exact purpose, is to get on the phone with you guys and help you figure out if it's the right move for you. Because transparently, coaching is not for everybody. If you wanted this part-time, not for you. If we get on the call with you and we can tell you're not coachable and you have a lot of things you want to be done a certain way, can't help you, right? But jump on it. It's, there's no risk to the call. And I think a lot of people are scared because you have that like cringe, you have that imposter syndrome. You're like, I don't even know, like it feels like a big step. It's not a big step. So I'd recommend going to replaunch.com.
Also, I think Jared was going to say this too, but like he has no photography or graphic experience whatsoever.
I missed that part. Yeah.
Say it, Mr. Jared, just say it.
It took 2 weeks of training in Normandy Young for me to go from have never touched a camera besides a cell phone to I was shooting houses. Like,
yeah,
honestly, shooting photos is the easy part.
Yeah. Keith, you said something that's really important in your next one too. And this is for everybody else. Like, you don't have to have any experience doing this. I mean, ultimately, no one does when they start, right? Like you have to learn at some point, but that is the easiest part of this business by far. You did say something that's good, which is you have sales experience, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't have sales experience. If I did, it would have been faster. Now, you don't have to have that, but that skill right there is way more valuable than anything you can possibly have from like a photo or graphics. And actually, I think the more people have photo and graphic design and like any art experience, the harder it is for them to build their business. Like Kenny, like genuinely, would you rather have someone with a background in sales or a background in graphic design for a coaching student?
Oh, sales for sure. Generally,
would you rather have someone who's literally just they're fresh out of school? Let's say they're 19, they have no experience, or someone who has experience as a photographer?
No experience. I mean, I was going to talk about one of my students, Warren. He literally just hit like 14K in 6 months in, and he had no photography experience. He was like in school for medicine. So yeah, no photography.
I'll put it this way. For Normandy Young, if you put on your Indeed application that you have photography experience, that more hurts you than helps you. I would rather not hire a photographer. I don't like retraining. I don't like breaking bad habits. Photographers have egos. They have things that I have to like. Perfectionism is the hardest thing to break.
Yeah.
And most photographers have that.
Oh, nice, David. Okay. I was like, I knew you had started, but I didn't know if you had gotten onboarded yet. So welcome in officially. Let's see.
The mixed opinions on bracketing.
There we go.
5 brackets is too much. It's unnecessary. 3 brackets is fine. 5 brackets, your editors are going to hate you because it's so much more upload and download time. 3 brackets is perfectly fine as long as you're watching your bottom brackets. If you have data in the windows on your bottom bracket, you're fine. If you don't on a 3 bracket, click it up 2 darker, take the photo again, you're fine. You don't need 5. It's overkill. Normandy Young shoots nothing but 3, and we have beautiful photos.
It's all about the editing, not the shooting, to be completely honest. You guys ever read any of Simon Sinek's books? First of all, I love a lot of what he said and what he writes. What book is the one that we all like? What's the main book that everybody talks about? Is it Start With Why? Is that his book? I don't know. Anyway, I love his books. Let's see. I always forget to go back when I'm looking for a new book and like look what he has. But anyway, thanks for the reminder. Oh, nice, Connor. Happy birthday to you. That's hilarious. I'm in an exploding market, but it's heavy winter until March. What would you recommend to be doing knowing that most agents are slow and weather is bad? Hit it hard now, Connor. You want to start doing the Instagram method immediately. You want to get everything set up. That way, when March comes around, those listings come back, you're not trying to start reaching out then. Like you want to have, you could have 100+ agents who are going to use you as soon as the listings start. The other side of that though, is it doesn't mean there are no listings until March, right? It just means it's slower. And so for anybody watching, no matter the circumstance, unless there's some reason, you absolutely can't, there is no time that it makes more sense to wait than it does to start today. Now, if you start in the middle of, like we had coaching clients start in November, that's a hard time to start because they're not going to see a lot of results in November and December because it's slower that time of year. But I still think it was better for them to start in November than it is for them to start today. Although starting today does make it easier because by the time you're starting to get results, we're swinging into busy season. It's just like how much you want to fight your mind, right? And so my take on it is like growing a business involves the kind of like mastering your emotions and like, being able to put in work and not see results immediately and just like building your character, right? Building character traits. And so there's no chance, there's no time where it doesn't make sense to start now. Like you should never wait would be my take. Let's see. Yeah, we're a little more casual at Norman & Young now. We used to be a little more like fancy. I don't think it really matters as long as you're dressed nicely. So like baseball caps are fine. We just don't want them like ripped up jeans looking awful. We want people to look presentable, but we don't have a uniform or anything. I would say so you got to pick the things you care about, right? And so at Norman & Young, that hasn't been something we super cared about now. Now, if you're just starting your business, when you're starting a business, there's a lot of things you can control and a lot of things you can't control, right? One thing you can control is how you look at shoots. And there's no time when dressing better is going to make a worse impression, in my opinion. So I would say dress better. And if I could snap my finger and change how everybody dressed in Norman & Young, I would. It's just not the fight that I'm trying to have right now. Like it's not, maybe fight's the wrong word, but it's just not the focus necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, we have limits. I laxed on the shorts thing because in Texas we have 110-degree summers. It's awful, and I wear jeans everywhere, but I can't expect everybody else to.
Yeah.
But like we don't allow baseball hats, hoodies, stuff like that. Band shirts, T-shirts, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what other question I want to get.
2 up from that's a good one.
Do you offer different pricing for apartment management companies where you do several units to represent the entire property, or same pricing as home, Mr. J?
We charge more. We charge a PETA fee, which is a pain in the. I don't know if I can cuss on here, so I won't. Huh?
Yeah, pain in the ass. I did it.
Yeah, we charge a pain in the ass fee because they're awful. Usually it takes a long time. It's a lot of walking between apartments. Huh?
YouTube just took it down. I'm kidding.
It's a lot of walking long distances. They're very picky. Usually we have to go do reshoots. So they pay more. Yeah, we charge them more. And they're going to be marketing it. I mean, they get a limited marketing license. It's going on their website. It's going in their ads. It's going on everything. So yeah, we do charge extra.
Did an interview today for a photographer who has a criminal record. He sounds awesome. It's in his past. What red flags or issues do you look for during? So that would be a hard pass on us. I understand second chances, but that's not the position. I'm going to give a second chance where people are going into somebody's home alone.
Yep.
So I would say it's not, unfortunately, worth it. They made their choice. That's why they have the record.
And honestly, like even if you think they're a great person or whatever, if one of your clients finds that out and they have super access and they're allowed to go into houses, that could destroy you.
Yeah. Do you make your photographer sign a non-compete? What are your thoughts? Yeah, we do. But I just want to say at the start of this, like you can't do that in every state, nor do I think it's actually that important. It would not change our business if we didn't. We just can in Texas. So we do. And we use it more as a filter. So like if someone comes in and they just don't want to sign a non-compete, we know they were trying to compete with us, right? We've never, it's just not. I think the more important thing you can do is hire people who aren't trying to start a business. And that's where people get real lazy and really hurt their business. They're like, oh, it'd be so much easier if I just hired a photographer or another real estate photographer that already knows his business is kind of slow, so he wants to work for me. Like, dude, he doesn't want his business to be slow anymore. Like he wants to get clients. He just doesn't have it yet. And so he's already shown you a desire. And so it's kind of a foolish decision on the hiring person's part if you hire someone who's clearly showed that they want to do what you do. So that'd be my take on it.
It's crazy how many people are like, hey, I really want to learn how to start my own business. Can I come shadow Norman & Young for a little? No, I'm going to train my competition.
Start with why. That's the Simon Sinek book. Thank you. Jared, how much ISO is too high?
Somebody posted in the rep group, their photos were super grainy, and they're like, what ISO were you on? They're like, auto. It was a very dark
like something thousand, right? On like
they were probably like 3,000 plus. It was very grainy.
Yeah. I thought it was like 126,000 on one of the top brackets or something. Anyway.
Oh, I had a coaching student who accidentally shot their house at 12,000 ISO.
Let's see. Hold on, let me scroll in. Thank you for all the birthday wishes, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, nice jeans and a logo with the polo is okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Instagram method one said it. Reached out to 104 Instagram accounts so far. Roughly 12 are seen. 3 saying they're happy with their photographer, and 1 said he'll contact soon. Is it a good reply ratio? No. So you want to get at least 10%, but that will come over a period of a few weeks. So I don't know how long it's been since you sent those. You want to see about a 10% yes rate. Now, the time of year will affect that a little bit. So we're in slower season for most people. You might not get those now. So just give me a little background, I guess, on how many, but generally, like for everybody here, you want to see at least 10% yeses on, and especially, so are you offering a free shoot? That's the thing I should have clarified with. If you offer like half off or 20% off, you might as well not even offer, because it's just not a good way to get clients. So that's the other thing I would ask.
If you are offering free, my other caveat to that would be 104 is not enough for good data. I mean, that's just not enough.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's do this one. Thank you for that, Sarah. I'm an interior photographer and home stager for occupied properties. I want to remove myself from the road or go on the road less times now. How can I build a company of mini-me? I guess is what you meant, or is what you said. So that's one of the reasons I like real estate photography, right? I don't think all types of photography are equal. And I think while you can build and scale a business doing about anything, I think there are things that are easier than not. And so like one of the bigger picture things that like I didn't know when I was starting, but now I think I focus on more, is there's like 2 things that matter when it comes to being a good or successful business owner, however you want to define that, right? Number 1 is being good at building your business, right? Serving your clients, building a team, like all the things that you need to do, selling, the things that you need to do to grow a business. That's skill number 1. But skill number 2 is picking the right business or picking the right clients to serve. And so if you're trying to scale a business, being an interior photographer is a lot more hands-on on the photography side and a lot less consistent potentially than just standard real estate. Now, if you're just talking about standard real estate photography, you just got to get to 15 to 20K a month and then hire somebody. That'd be my approach. But drop it in the comments, like if I misunderstood. Are you doing like high-end interiors, or are you just doing real estate photography?
There's one above that. With bracketing, what happens when you get to a house that has a dark room with no windows or the electricity is off? No windows, so much better. That's awesome. Go as slow of a shutter speed as you need to get a bright photo. Like windows makes it a little bit harder because it's going to be hard to get a window pull. If you have to have a really long shutter speed, your dark bracket's going to be very blown out. But with no windows, take it to 30 seconds if you need to. Like you can take that shutter speed as long as you want.
Yeah.
Between 100 and 250 ISO, take your shutter speed as long as you want. The photo's going to look fine.
Okay, so this is the follow-up on the 104 Instagram messages. It's been 2 weeks, and it seems like you're doing everything right. So you're engaging, doing genuine comments. I assume that your Instagram profile looks good and that you have some of you on there, and it's not just pictures of houses. That's the only thing I don't know for sure from what you said here. You're offering a free shoot, messages are personalized, so everything's good. It's just off-season. It's literally December. Like they want to have a listing, they just don't have one. So my advice would be, you're 2 weeks in. It is. If you think about it, like, and this is a message that I think is important for everybody. Like, if you think about it, it is impossible for you to fail if you just DM a ton for 6 months. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, right? But you've done 104 messages in 2 weeks. You've done 50 a week, which is about what we recommend coaching clients, actually. And so I'm going to say something hard, which is, what if you just did that? Like, would it be unreasonable for you to not have a lot of clients if you did that every week for 6 months? No, you would be there. And so worst case scenario, 6 months of grinding is standing between you and that. Now, to step it back and give you a little more hope, we have never seen someone grind out Instagram messages properly for even close to 6 months and not get a ton of shoots. It just doesn't happen. And so I would just keep in mind, like, you're 2 weeks in, it's off season. And I want to say something that I think hopefully sticks, because this time of year is the hardest for people to keep going, because we all as people are so used to getting quick results, right? And so it's like kind of hard to just keep doing something that, especially when something's boring and labor intensive, that's not getting you results. So I would say just know that. Be like, my brain is going to tell me all the reasons why this isn't working, and it's going to tell me to stop because it's not getting little results. Push through that. Like, if you just DM, and anybody here this applies to, coaching or not, and this is what we tell you, if you're in coaching with us, this is what we're telling you right now. Like, put in the work right now, because January, February, and March is going to be just a solid ramp up for you. And then you're going to have the same problem. You're going to have a problem in April, but it's not going to be the same problem. It's going to be, hey, I'm so busy. I'm doing 9K a month and I can't do any more. And then it's like, okay, there's another, like, you can do more. I promise you can. We just got to fix the rest. So it's like, business is just solving problems. And the first problem is not enough clients, then you'll have too many.
You're going to have to go through 100 no's to get that one client that will just change your business. I mean, Eli, you had a client that literally like helped you go no longer like under 10K anymore after you got
the biggest month we'd ever done, it was Aaron and I at this point, we'd done like 3,500, 3,800. I thought I was I thought that was $1 million at that point. And a broker reached out to us. It was kind of like a broker / an agent that did listings, but he reached out and he's like, I'm going to have you shoot all my listings going forward. And that October was the month that he had to start shooting for him. We made $10,000 that month and we've never gone below it since then. And so there's like two sides to the thing. There's one, which is like, just put in the work and look for 10% yes. But the other thing, like Kenny said, is you never know, one of those yeses could absolutely blow up your business. Like that client would have been $5K a month instantly. And we see that happen in coaching all the time where someone just gets a big client and just, and so where a lot of people go wrong is they just look for all these reasons they can't, right? They're like, oh, here's why it's not going to work. You're like, that's how humans are a little bit, but also some people are worse than others when it comes to that. And so you just have to be looking for why it's going to work and doing the work, not looking for why it isn't. Speaking of that.
Yeah. And to think about it right now, their pain point right now is they don't have listings. But once January hits and they start getting listings, you want to be top of mind. If you've already done your due diligence, you've already done your work, and you've already sent them messages and you're following up, you can follow up mid-January and they'll be like, oh, I remember that guy. He offered me a free shoot. I have a listing now. Let me hit him up.
The key to that is following up. You must follow up with all of those people that you're reaching out to. Even if they said no, it's like, hey, how's it going? Like, if you need anything, if you need a backup photographer, happy to be that backup photographer for you.
And all those photographers who took December off,
go for it, Jared.
All those photographers who took December off are going to be just now starting to get ramped up. You're already going to be top ahead for them. Definitely.
So just like a quick side note, the reality is, and I kind of said this earlier with the 6-month thing, but everybody here is less far than you probably think in terms of time from making a big impact in your business, which then makes a big impact in your life, right? So it's probably less time than you think, but if you want it to be less time than you think, I can almost guarantee you that it's going to be more work than you think. So it's kind of that paradox, right? Like you may be thinking, oh, in like 1.5 years, I can have a great business. And my challenge to you would be in 4 months, you can have a great business. You're just gonna have to do a ton of work more than you think you're gonna have to do. And like the reality of it, and I know this because I get to work with a lot of people. And when you're first starting a business, when you first start a business, you are lazy and full of excuses 99% of the time, right? And then you realize that neither of those things suit you. And so you start working on not being those. But if you can just like understand that, like, you are not likely doing the amount of work that you think you are towards building your business, right? Like you probably tell yourself and you probably think you're doing more work than you actually are. And I encourage you to think about that for a second. Be like, am I actually doing a lot of work? Or am I just like a lot of thinking and a lot of, I want this, but not actually moving towards it. And so just think about that. I mean, it's like you were very few months away from a completely different business. Even if you already have a business that's, doing 15K a month, like 6 months from now, you could have a business doing 30K and have a team. Like it can happen. And we've seen it all the time. It's just, you have to commit to actually doing that. This is a good one. So I gotta take a breath. The altitude's getting me up here. We're actually somehow at our Airbnb higher than the ski resort is because we have to like drive down to it. So I'm like fine when I'm skiing, and then I come up here and I can barely walk up the stairs. Anyway, I started 7 months ago and I've done around 50 shoots this year, with the majority of that coming the last 4 months. Let me do some quick math on here to see how much money that is. Maybe like 10 grand. So with the majority of that coming in the last 4 months, I base my 2024 goals off of quantity of shoots or quantity of income. So I would say quantity of shoots is a good one, but I would look at net income, like profit. And I would challenge you, like what we want to see is 10K in gross revenue and 8K in profit minimum in the first year. That's like a sign if you did it well. Now, I think you can do a lot more than that. And that's, the goal we try to get with our coaching students. We all want them doing way more than 8K, way faster than a year. And so that's how I look at it. I think the reason I said that the profit is because I think it's really easy as a business owner to get really fixated on how much revenue your company makes. Like, oh, I made 100 grand this month, but if you made 100 grand, your profit's only 5 grand. Not really that great of a business, right? And so I think it's important to look at profit. So I would do quantity of shoots and profit. I would try to have a goal for both of those.
And it's good to track that kind of stuff. You should always base base the coming year off of your previous year. So like Norman and Young, I know December is going to be slow. How slow? I don't know, but I plan on the year before. We grow every slow season, but I always plan for the slow season before.
Yeah. Yeah. And so speaking of slow season, question here, what should you do during slow season? So there's like clients. 2 things that people do. Yeah. One is they just be sad about slow season. That was me for the first couple of years. And I get all depressed because I'm like, oh, my business isn't. And then it comes back every year. Right. And I'm like, damn, I wish I would have used that time to like, reach out to some clients, because you can't do that during busy season, especially your second year, sometimes even your first year. And so what I would say, I think the best thing, and if I could go back, I would really hit the Instagram method, like just atrociously hard, honestly, during this time of year. Like I'd be doing 50 messages a day custom, because it's like, it's so funny too, because I don't know what it is, but it's really easy for someone to go spend, the day shooting 3 shoots, right? Like that's a pretty easy day, Jared, right? Would you agree 3 shoots, very easy day?
Oh yeah.
4 shoots is like a pretty full day. 5 shoots is pretty busy. So how many hours is it going to take you to do 4 shoots? Worst case, Jared, like you're going to work 10 to 5. Do you agree with that?
If they're all vacant going times, I can have that done in 2 hours.
Faster. But like worst case, 10 to 5, right?
Yeah.
So have you ever, Kenny, have you or Jared ever seen someone do the Instagram method from 10 to 5?
No.
So it's like, that's what I was kind of hinting at earlier. Like it is not complex how to grow your business very fast. It's just difficult because you're not going to want to sit there and do the Instagram method all day. And that's why I say it's probably more work than you think, but you can have a change in your business much faster than you think if you're like willing to just be honest with yourself and be like, hey, it is really easy for me to go shoot all day. Sitting at a desk from 10 to 5 without getting distracted 375 times is hard, but that's the hard that's going to grow your business, right? And so just think about it that way. Like I have never seen someone, even the most dedicated people, I've never seen someone pull a 10 to 5 on the Instagram method. You do that one day, you're going to get a client that day, almost certainly, right? People just say, oh, I've been doing the Instagram method for months. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, how can you measure that in months, right? It's like, no, it's measured in messages sent and then the time frame you sent those messages. And so
I had a student send 104 or 110 the first day that he started. He's like, I'm ready. And he went.
And one of the biggest things I see with people in slow season is you feel like the world's collapsing and you get that shiny object and you're like, oh, I need to learn how to do headshots. I need to learn how to do branding. I need to build a social media content empire in December to get me through so I can make it to January. And that's the worst thing you can do. That just splits your focus even more. When December is the time you should be focusing on your business. If you're not out doing shoots, that's when you should be restructuring, making sure that when you get back into busy season, like how can I buy myself back an extra hour in the morning and the afternoon so I can squeeze 2 more shoots in a day, and getting more clients. And everybody starts like, oh, I need to pivot to this because I'm not making money right now. Well, like how can you set yourself up to make more money when the ramp up comes?
I'm just curious what you don't like about Hormozy. I would love to know.
He's richer than it.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, basically, Jason. Or you could go while you're fishing, you could be messaging clients waiting for the fish to bite if that's the type of fishing that you do.
There you go.
Interest rates will be down in 2024. It's going to be busy. Yeah, it looks like that's the
Allegedly.
case. Allegedly.
We will
The Fed's
see.
saying, I mean, it's not going to go up.
Yeah, it's not going to go up, but there's no promise it's going to go down.
I think there actually is now. Let's see. Fed interest.
They hinted at it last I checked. They hinted at it, but they have not said anything.
Yeah, we'll see. Either way, it doesn't matter. David, I'm in Breckenridge, actually. I went skiing. Let's see.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, even with where they're at right now, we still grew this year.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Why shouldn't you do headshots? Realtors ask me more often than normal for headshots. So we're not saying you shouldn't do headshots. We're just saying you shouldn't necessarily pivot your strategy because you think your business changed. So like I would say, yeah, if you can use headshots as a way to maybe make some money, but more importantly, I would say create a relationship, then you should do that. I just am of the mindset, after having seen a lot of people go through this process, like the fastest way to get clients is just going to be to do more of the Instagram method, not try to find other stuff. But it's easier to like Jared said, shiny object syndrome and thinking, oh, headshots how I should grow. Like, again, if let's say you did a headshot shoot and it was a brokerage and there was like 10 people there and it took you got there at 10, you're not gonna be out of there till noon, most likely. So 2 hours. So I'd go, okay, how many clients are you gonna get from that 2 hours? Maybe a good amount. 2 hours of the Instagram method is also very powerful. And so I would argue that may be better, especially if you're not good at headshots. Because the last thing you want to do, this is where people go wrong. They're like, oh, I'm going to try headshots. If you try headshots, the first time you're probably going to suck and the clients are not going to like those photos and they're going to think you're a bad photographer. Right. And so it's like, you just have to be really aware of like where your strengths are. If you've been a headshot photographer, one of the guys in our rep community named Chris, he's a headshot photographer before shooting real estate. And he used that to get so many real estate shoots because he was really good at shooting headshots. I did headshots for a brokerage once and none of the clients used the headshots. One of them was kind enough to tell me that and I never did headshots again. Right. And I wish I would have known before that I didn't have the skills to do headshots. And so I think it hurt my reputation at that brokerage, to be honest. And so that's why we say it. Now, if you're good at headshots, awesome, use it.
Don't think my point was, don't think that's going to be the next step of your business. Like it's going to make you grow. It's going to be a nice thing that you add on. Honestly, you're going to make more money shooting houses. Headshots take more time. You don't get to charge as much unless you're really, really, really good at it. It is something that is nice to offer, but a lot of people are like, oh, I got to pivot. This is the next big thing. This is what's going to take my business to the next level. And it's not. I mean, honestly, in the time you do headshots, you could shoot a full house and make 2-3 times as much money.
You know, this funny thing I saw the other day was someone's post. I'm still waiting for the person to tell me what they didn't like about Hormozy. I'm just curious because like the dude doesn't even sell anything. Anyway, so I saw this post and it was like someone had asked someone what he did to become a multimillionaire. And he said it was more about what he didn't do. And I think that was really important. It's like one of the biggest didn't do's that I see. Like I've stuck with a business that when I first started, like I wanted to be a doctor. And so starting a photography business was kind of like a downgrade, right? Like I know everybody kind of thought that, right? And I even thought that at some level. And I just stayed on that path, right? I just kept doing it. And so one of the things I believe that I didn't do that allowed me to grow a big business was change my mind all the time. I have a lot of friends that like I either went to high school with or like knew growing up that like I've seen them be 3 different things in the last 8 years. I'm like, they haven't had the time to be good at one of those things, right? And that's even like best case. You see people pivot every year. Or what's another thing they didn't do? So something I didn't do is switch courses. Another thing I didn't do is waste a lot of time, right? Like I put a lot of work into my business because I knew that, you know, it's one of those things like when you're first starting your business, you're always going to have doubts. Like I didn't know that my business was going to grow. I didn't know what REPP would become. I didn't know we were going to be here, but I knew that if I didn't stop, you know, working towards that, it would be unreasonable to not be somewhere that I would consider somewhat successful. Right. And so another thing I didn't do was just be lazy and pretend like I was doing a lot. I would try to be really honest with myself. Now, it doesn't mean I was perfect at it always, but I think that's an interesting way to look at it is like, what do people who are successful not do? And that was one of them, right? I was just dedicated. Like I didn't waste my weekends. I spent time. I grew my business. I've been consistent at it for 10 years in the same industry. Haven't switched. Wanted to switch a lot of times, right? Because you always see that new thing. Like I'm someone that wants to build a big business. And like the idea of building a photography business seems like it's not possible to build a good business. Right. And so like a lot of people would be like, oh, that's true. Like my brain's telling me something true. Let me pivot. Right. And then I have to restart the learning process. And so I think that's really important.
Can you hit the one that's 2 up and I'll rant on it just really fast? Thanks for doing the Q&A. How much did you pay percentage wise to another photographer?
Oh yeah, I knew you were going to want to do that one. I was going to click it next.
Just shoot, no editing, example photo packages $299. You shouldn't. Why are you paying out a percentage? Like if you're doing virtual twilights, is your photographer going to help you pay for that? No, your business is paying for it. Why should they get a percentage of it? Why are you? The only time I would ever justify paying a percentage out is if you do it percentage after all of the costs. Now I get some people want, you want the photographer to be part of the business. They can get a percentage, whatever. That should be after your expenses in that case. So, because they're not helping you pay for editing. They're not helping you pay for
How do we pay, Jared? Like, what do we do?
We pay hourly. And that's really, I think, the best way to do it if you want a scalable business.
Yeah.
If you want a business that you can take to 10 photographers, you're going to have to pay hourly. I mean, there's people that have done it with contracts, but then you're talking about 30% profit margins opposed to 10% profit margins. And if you go the contractor route, then you get in a whole bunch of legal stuff where you're dancing a line between, am I training them? I can't provide them gear. What if their drone breaks? Are you going to expect them to buy a $1,200 drone? Or I would prefer them to be a W-2. I'll just buy you another drone.
I think a lot of people have like misunderstandings around it being more complicated to have an employee, and it's just not. Like it just is not. Justin said, with tax season approaching, what are your thoughts on write-offs and utilizing the tax code to build your business? Any tips and tricks? I mean, honestly, Justin, the biggest one I can say is get a CPA that's willing to teach you. So you're not going to be able to figure out, like, try reading a single part of the tax code and understanding it yourself with no confusion. It's almost impossible. And so like you'll hear a lot of people throw out like 179 deductions. That's a big one. Go read that and see if you're confident. Just that section, like you're not going to be. And so my biggest advice is just get a CPA and call him. That's what we do. Like everybody here files with the same CPA. His name's Mark. If I have a question, I call him. You can have a strategy session with him, and then you know what to do. And so, yeah, I mean, part of building a business, and especially in the United States, is knowing that the tax system is set up in a way to reward you for doing what the government wants you to, which is buying stuff, because the economy runs when people buy stuff. And so that's why write-offs are there. And it also goes more, niche than that. So it's like there's a lot of real estate deductions. Why does the government want people to have real estate? Because someone decided that was good for the economy, right? I'm not going to comment on anything about that, but that's just how it is. And so, yeah, absolutely learning to use that efficiently is the most important thing you can do. On that note, if you haven't applied for coaching and you're serious about building your real estate photo business, I'd love for you to go to that link below, replaunch.com/apply. You'll get to talk with Rod, Philippe, or Carl on my team. They're all great, and they can help you try to figure out if this is right for you. And so something that I'd love for you to consider doing, and maybe it's deciding that real estate photography isn't for you. But if you're kind of like a lurker and you're halfway in, I would encourage you to get off the fence, whether that means putting real estate photography behind you and not doing it, or going all in. It just, my biggest thing that I'd love for people to do that I wish I would have been more decisive with at the start is just being decisive, right? Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going all in. So I'd encourage you to talk with them if you haven't yet. Learn what coaching could do for you. And if you already have a business, like, it's a no-brainer to talk to them, because we can actually guarantee your business growth just depending on where you are, and they can help you figure out what that looks like. So go to replaunch.com/apply, and we'd love to work with you. Built a great team over here. Kenny and Jared are two of my guys, and we got a whole nother crew. So if you already have a business, we have coaching for you as well. Love to work with you. On that note, this is funny. I like this one. I'm not even going to bite on the Hormozy one, but anyway, you do you. On that note, yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, just feel free to DM me on Instagram. You can also see Kenny and Jared's Instagram on there as well. They're coaches on our team, guys I've worked with for a long time, know what they're doing in their areas better than I do. So DM them as well. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all the birthday wishes. Anything else, Jared and Kenny? I got an interview in 7 minutes.
Go get it, guys. Stop making excuses.
Thanks, everybody. Let me find the end screen here. Hope you have a good one. If you haven't applied for coaching, go do it right now. We'd love to talk with you. Stalling because I don't know where the end screen is. Here it is. See you guys later. Bye, everyone.